Jessica, we were just talking about the U.S. GDP figures. I see U.S. economic growth cooling less than expected. What does that mean for the dollar and interest rates?
Thanks, Devin. Great to be with you today. Yes, we did receive some interesting data showing that fourth quarter GDP in the U.S. did cool less than expected, as you mentioned, to about a 2.6% annualized gain. That was largely due to stronger business investment as well as a solid consumer. So we saw treasuries move a bit lower off of the news. The dollar get a little bit of a bid. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index rising for a second straight day, up about 0.2% the last time I checked. Essentially, analysts are saying that these GDP figures are showing that the U.S. economy is doing pretty well, and that's even as the Fed, reiterates risks that they see and also says that, they want to stick to a more patient approach when it comes to interest rate moves. And right now we do see investors seeing that the central bank will remain on hold for the remainder of the year, though.
When we change focus now to some equity movers, to start with what's going on in the markets, we have AB InBev rallying after it reported earnings. How are investors looking at the share?
Yes, this company, really interesting move in the share price today. It was actually the biggest gainer on the Europe Stock 600 Food and Beverage Index, up more than 6% at one point today. That's after it reported a strong set of fourth quarter earnings results with revenue beating expectations. Citigroup coming out and citing its strong performance in the U.S. It essentially had a really good quarter, especially compared to the third quarter where its profit missed expectations. However, I do have to say that investors are still sort of skeptical. There are some lingering issues with the company. The company had about $133 billion in goodwill on its balance sheet at December 31st and about $44 billion of intangible assets. So combined, that exceeded its market capitalization. So that's a bit of a risk if we see demand lowered for any of its bigger brands. And investors are also watching to see how much progress the company is making in terms of reducing its borrowings. So still a lot for investors to take in, and they'll be monitoring the stock closely.
And then, Jessica, gas and power supply company PG&E Corp falling for a fifth straight session. Much of that related to fires that killed 85 people and destroyed a town in Northern California in November. Tell us more.
Yes, this is the latest with PG&E here. It did fall for a fifth straight day, like you pointed out, its longest losing streak since November, after reported its biggest loss ever. And it also said that it's probable that its equipment will be blamed for the deadliest fire in California's history, which is quite something. Right now, we also saw that about the $10.5 billion charge in connection to the fire will result in about a $6.9 billion fourth quarter loss for the company. And in the 4 months since November here, since the fire broke out, we've seen about $16 billion wiped away from its market value. Huge number there. And right now, the latest filings that came out today showed that PG&E did tell investigators that its transmission line near the ignition point actually did malfunction 18 minutes before the fire broke out.
All right, Jessica Summers in New York with the latest on the U.S. markets. Thanks very much for touching base with us.